Hey guys, welcome back to the Old Mill Shed. I'm Jason, and today we're going to cover how to select the correct chain for your chainsaw. If you've ever bought a chainsaw chain that almost fits your saw, but not quite, this video's for you. Chainsaw chains are not universal. You can pick one up, and if your pitch or your gauge is wrong, then not only could you make a very unsafe situation for yourself, leading to severe injury or, heaven forbid, even death, you could severely damage or destroy your saw. So I just threw out two terms there that you might not know: pitch and gauge. We'll start with pitch, and then we'll move on to gauge, number of drive lengths, and how to find these on your saw itself, or the guide bar, if you don't have a chain to go by. So here I have a saw chain that is off of my 435. And the first thing we're going to cover here is pitch. And your pitch is the distance between your rivets. Lots of times your chain will have that stamped somewhere on the chain. So for instance, if you're running a steel chain, which I think this is Husqvarna X-Cut, but let's say you're running a steel Oil-O-Matic, that is going to have a number stamped here on your drive lengths. If it's a number 2, it's 0.325 pitch. If it's a number 3, it will be 3/8 pitch. And if it's 4, it will be 404 pitch, or 0.404 pitch. And if it is 6, it will be 3/8 low profile. Okay, so that's all well and good, but what happens if you have worn the numbers off of your drag links, or you're running a different brand of chain? Well, lots of times your chains will also have, on the link where they close the chain up, will be different colors. Yellow for this chain is actually 0.325 pitch. Green for this brand would be 3/8, and so on and so forth. And you can actually just Google that for the brand that you have, or the brand you want to buy. But say you don't even want to do that. You can buy, where is it at? Right here. You can buy a saw bar and chain gauge. This one, made by Oregon, was like $4 off of eBay. So to find your pitch, let me zoom in here a little bit. So to use this to find your pitch, you want to line the rivets up with each one of the gauges. So you see here, I have that rivet in that slot, and it doesn't line up on this one. So it's definitely not 3/8 pitch. On a saw this small, we know it's not going to be 404 pitch. It confirms it. I have it lined up in that slot, and there's not a rivet there. Let's try 1/4 pitch. Well, I have it lined up in the slot. There's nothing there. Only one left is 3/25 pitch, and there you go. I have it lined up in the slot, and the rivet is in the other slot, and that tells us this is 0.325 pitch chain. The next thing that we want to cover is the gauge of your drive links. Your typical gauges are 43 thou, 50 thou, 58 thou, and 63 thou. Small saws will typically be 50 thousandths. Even small little electric saws, I've only seen 43 thou, maybe once or twice, and I think both of them were on pole saws. The 50 thou is probably the most popular gauge that your chain is going to be, but you still don't want to guess. So how do you figure out what gauge your chain is supposed to be? Now, later we're going to cover how to do it on the guide bar, but you can also do it off of your chain. So here I have the chain off of my 562 Husqvarna, and I have the drive link here. And then this little gauge here has 4 slots right here, and it goes from 43 thousandths at the top to 63 thousandths at the bottom. So what I'm going to do, make sure I'm doing this on camera here, is I'm going to try to first slide it through the 43 thousandths. It's not going. Slide it through the 50 thousandths, and it goes right through. Well, obviously if it goes through the 50 thousandths, it's going to go through the 58 and the 63. So when you're doing this, you want to see what is the smallest slot that the chain will go through. And here it is on this saw, on this chain I should say, it's 50 thousandths gauge. Here on the 325 pitch chain off of my 435, now you don't want to do this if your drive links are heavily worn. Then you can do it off of your chainsaw, off the guide bar. But these drive links are in pretty good shape. So, doesn't go into 43, goes right through the 50. And you don't want to force this gauge down on here. Now this one's plastic. The aluminum ones are better, but they are a lot more expensive. So these little plastic ones, they work fine, but just remember you got to be gentle with them. You don't want to like force anything through them. So here we are, it's a 50 thousandths chain. So we know for a fact that this chain is 325 pitch, 50 thou gauge. The big chain is 3/8 pitch, 50 thou. So here we have both of our chains. And to determine the length, like I said, we just count the drive links. And because I have the best education that Bedford County had to offer in the 80s and 90s, I can count all the way up to 66 for this chain and 84 for this chain. So this chain that goes on the 435, we have discovered that it is 0.325 pitch, 50 thou gauge with 66 drive links. The chain for the 562 XP, we have determined that it is 3/8 pitch, it is 50 thou gauge, and it has 84 drive links. That in of itself is enough for you to go to your saw shop and just tell the people that that's what you want, whether you have the old chain or not. If you do have the old chain, I suggest taking it with you. Lots of people don't trust that you know how to count or how to measure or how to use these little gauges. But if you don't have the chain, and say you just had these numbers written down somewhere, you can just walk up to the parts counter and say, hey, I need a 0.325 pitch chain, 50 thousandths gauge with 66 drive links, and tell them if you want full chisel, semi-chisel, skip chain, whatever, and they can give you the correct chain for your saw. But what happens if you have a saw and you don't have the chain? Well, how do you figure out what chain that you need then? So what happens when you have a saw that you don't have a chain for it, but you just have the saw head and the bar? Well, the easiest way, if you find yourself in that situation, the bar will tell you exactly what you need. So this Ryobi right here, it tells us that this is a 50 thousandths gauge, it takes 52 drive lengths of 3/8 low profile pitch. Well, we can't check the pitch of the chain, obviously, because we don't have a chain on it, but we can check the groove of the bar, and we can check the length of the bar. Now, obviously, it says it's a 14-inch here, but we're going to show you how to check the length of the bar, even if it doesn't tell you. So I have my gauge here, and these four corners will tell you the thickness of your gauge, of the gauge for your bar. Where these lines here that we used earlier, you use if you're checking the chain itself. So I'm going to try the 58 thousandths corner, and it wants to start but it doesn't go in. So let's try the 50 thou. Drops right in. So this is in fact a 50 thousandths gauge bar. Here's the one off the Husqvarna, off the 562. Now on the bar it has HV24 50 84W. Well, that tells us that this is made for Husqvarna. It's 24-inch, 50 thousandths gauge, 84 drive lengths. Well, what about the pitch? Well, a lot of these professional bars, you can run different pitches depending on what you want to do. And that is determined by your nose sprocket. So I could put a 325 pitch chain on here if I so desired. It would change my drive lengths and just change the nose sprocket to 325. So the nose sprocket here has 3/8 written on it. So from this bar, I know that this particular bar, from what's written on it, is configured for a Husqvarna saw. It's a 24-inch bar, 50 thousandths gauge, 84 drive lengths, with the 3/8 inch pitch nose on it. Now I also know just from experience that 84 drive lengths, a 24-inch bar, is the 3/8 pitch. And you can, there's actually charts out there, you can look this up. So even if you don't have the nose sprocket on it, you can look up 24-inch bar with a 3/8 inch pitch, and the chart will tell you that it's 84 drive lengths. Well, if that adds up to the 84 here, then you know that it is in fact a 3/8 inch pitch saw. A little harder is this one off of a Poulan, and right here it has the numbers 1891. So that tells us that this is an 18-inch bar. 91 is an Oregon designation for a 3/8 inch pitch low profile chain. And you can go on Oregon's website and look that up if you don't know it offhand. So that's the easiest way to do it if you don't have the chain on the saw. Okay, what happens if, say, these numbers are worn off of my bar? I don't have a chain. And let's just say that the bar doesn't tell me how long it is. Most of your bars are going to be in 2-inch increments. So for instance, this 14-inch bar is going to measure 16 inches. But you got to remember, it's the usable point from back to the front of the saw. So what you want to do, so you have a 16-inch bar, take 2 inches off of it, 14. I have this 16-inch bar here. Or at least I think it's a 16-inch bar. Alright, the last full inch is 18, so this is a 16-inch bar. This 18-inch bar should be somewhere around 20 inches long, which it is. 18-inch bar. 24-inch bar should be around 26 inches. Oh, it's 27. Well, by that, you would think it would be a 25-inch bar. But 25-inch bars are very, very uncommon. So in a situation like this, you would think it's probably a 24-inch bar, but I would take the bar and the saw head with me to the saw shop and have them fit the chain for you. Okay guys, so that's the video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It helps the algorithm a lot. We'll see you here next time under the shed.